Aries, stop for a moment, because August 15th may look like an ordinary day on the calendar, but emotionally, something can feel different. You may wake up with a thought you cannot explain. A person may suddenly come to mind. A decision you were completely certain about may suddenly feel different. And here is the part I want you to remember. Do not rush to silence that feeling, because when the moon changes signs, astrology traditionally associates that shift with a change in emotional atmosphere, instincts, and the way we process what is happening around us. And for Aries, that can feel especially noticeable. Your inner compass may begin pointing in a direction you weren't expecting. Something inside you may whisper, "This isn't the path anymore." And another part of you may ask, "Then where am I supposed to go?" That tension is exactly where today's message begins, because August 15th isn't necessarily about getting an immediate answer. It may be about realizing that your old answer no longer fits the person you're becoming. So stay with me until the end, because we're going to uncover the 3 signs that your inner compass is shifting, the one mistake you absolutely don't want to make during this energy, and the message your intuition may be trying to deliver before you even recognize it. 1. Why the moon's shift can feel so personal. Aries, you are naturally associated with movement. You like action, you like clarity, you like knowing what you're doing and moving forward. When something feels wrong, your instinct can be fix it. When something feels uncertain, your instinct can be decide. When something blocks you, your instinct can be push through it. But the moon represents a very different kind of energy. It asks you to pause, to observe, to feel, to listen before acting. And when the moon changes signs, the symbolic emotional tone changes with it. Think of it like walking into a different room. The room is still your life. Your responsibilities are still there. Your goals are still there. But suddenly, the atmosphere feels different. And that's why August 15th may bring an unusual realization. You might discover that something you were chasing doesn't excite you anymore. You might realize that a relationship requires a different boundary. You might suddenly feel drawn towards something you previously ignored. And Aries, that isn't necessarily confusion. Sometimes confusion is simply clarity arriving before you're emotionally ready to accept it. 2. The first sign, your reaction changes. Here's the first thing to watch. Something happens, but you don't react the way you normally would. Someone says something that would usually trigger you, and instead of fighting back, you pause. Someone disappoints you, and instead of trying to prove your worth, you simply observe. Someone walks away, and instead of chasing them, you think, maybe this is exactly what needed to happen. That is a major internal shift, because your circumstances haven't necessarily changed. You have. And this is one of the most important messages for Aries on August 15th. Your power isn't always found in taking action. Sometimes your power is found in realizing that you no longer need to react. Let that sink in. The old version of you may have needed an explanation. The new version may simply need peace. The old version may have needed someone else's approval. The new version may trust its own direction. The old version may have chased closure. The new version may create closure internally. And if you notice yourself responding differently on or around August 15th, don't dismiss it. Your reaction may be revealing your evolution. 3. The second sign, something no longer feels right now. We go deeper, because sometimes the inner compass doesn't tell you where to go. It first tells you where not to stay. You may suddenly feel uncomfortable in a situation that you've tolerated for months. A job, a friendship, a routine, a relationship dynamic. even a goal you once desperately wanted. And you may wonder, why don't I want this anymore? Aries, here's something important. You don't always outgrow something because it was bad. Sometimes you outgrow something because it completed its purpose. A chapter can be beautiful and still be finished. A person can matter to you and still not belong in your next chapter. A dream can once have been real and still no longer represent your future. This is where many people become afraid. They think, if I change direction, I've failed. No, changing direction doesn't automatically mean failure. Sometimes changing direction means your internal GPS finally recalculated. And August 15th may highlight exactly that. You could experience a subtle feeling of, I can't keep doing this the same way. Don't panic. Listen, there may be information inside that feeling. 4. The third sign, your intuition gets louder. Now here's where things become interesting. Sometimes your intuition doesn't arrive as a dramatic vision. It arrives as repetition. The same thought keeps returning. The same name appears. The same idea refuses to disappear. You keep noticing the same symbol, the same number, the same message, the same feeling. And eventually you ask, why do I keep coming back to this? That is where you need discernment. Not every coincidence is a cosmic command, but your repeated emotional responses are worth examining. Ask yourself, why does this thought keep returning? What happens inside me when I imagine choosing this path? Do I feel expanded, or do I feel afraid because it challenges my comfort zone? There is a difference. Fear can say, don't do it. Intuition can say, you already know. And sometimes those two voices sound almost identical. That's why you don't need to make a huge decision in one moment. You can simply observe. Give yourself space. Let the emotional noise settle, because your clearest answers often arrive when you stop demanding them. Phoebe, the hidden message behind this shift. Aries, there is a deeper message here. You may have spent a long time believing that your next breakthrough would come from doing more effort, more work, more chasing, more proving, more planning. But what if the next breakthrough comes from recognizing what no longer deserves your energy? That's a completely different kind of power. Imagine carrying a heavy backpack for years. One day you finally open it, and you realize you've been carrying things that belonged to an old version of yourself. Old expectations, old disappointments, old identities, old promises, old fears. And suddenly you understand, I don't need to carry all of this anymore. That is what an inner compass shift can feel like. Not necessarily fireworks. Sometimes it's simply relief, a quiet realization, a deep breath, a decision to stop forcing. And Aries, don't underestimate quiet transformation. Some of the biggest changes in your life may begin without anyone else noticing. 6. Love and relationships. Now let's talk about relationships, because this moon shift may make emotional truth harder to ignore. If you're single, you may begin realizing that your standards are changing. And no, that doesn't mean you need someone perfect. It means you may no longer be satisfied with connections that constantly make you question your worth. You may want consistency instead of chemistry alone, peace instead of emotional chaos, mutual effort instead of one-sided pursuit. And if you're already in a relationship, you may notice something else. You may become more sensitive to the emotional atmosphere between you and your partner. Small things may suddenly feel important, not because you are becoming overly emotional, but because you're becoming more aware. And awareness gives you a choice. You can communicate. You can set a boundary. You can repair something. Or you can finally admit that something isn't working. But remember, don't make permanent decisions from temporary emotional intensity. Observe first. Communicate clearly. Let the energy settle. Then decide. That's how you use emotional awareness without becoming controlled by it. 7. Money, career, and your next move. Now let's move into your practical life. August 15th may also make you question your direction professionally. Maybe you've been asking, am I really doing what I want? Is this still worth my time? Should I take the opportunity? Should I wait? And here's the message. You don't need to know the entire path to recognize the next step. That's important. Your mind wants a 5-year map. Your intuition may only give you the next 5 feet, and that's enough. If an opportunity appears, don't automatically say yes because you're afraid it will disappear. If an opportunity disappears, don't automatically assume you missed your destiny. Sometimes a closed door is simply information. Sometimes a delay is protection. Sometimes a redirection is preparation. And sometimes the thing you thought was a setback is actually moving you toward a much better alignment. So on August 15th, ask yourself one simple question. What feels sustainable for the person I am becoming? Not what impresses people, not what proves something, not what your past self would choose. What supports your future self? That answer matters. 8. What you must not do. Now listen carefully, Aries. If you remember only one section from this entire video, remember this one. Do not force clarity. When your inner compass begins shifting, there can be a strange period where you know what you don't want, but you don't yet know what you do want. That space can feel uncomfortable, and your instinct may be to fill it immediately, make a decision, send the message, quit, chase, buy, commit, react, don't, pause, give the information time to arrive. You don't have to turn every emotion into an action. You don't have to answer every message immediately. You don't have to explain every change in your personality. And you certainly don't have to convince someone that you've changed. Let your actions reveal it. There is enormous power in waiting long enough to distinguish impulse from intuition. So, if August 15th feels emotionally unusual, take a breath, sleep on important decisions, write your thoughts down, spend a few minutes away from noise, and ask yourself, is this what I truly want? Or is this what I want because I'm afraid? That one question can change everything. 9. The moment your inner compass turns, and now we reach the heart of this message, there may come a moment around this energy when something suddenly clicks. You may hear a sentence, see a message, have a conversation, remember something, or simply wake up one morning with a completely different perspective. Nothing outside you has changed, but inside, everything feels different. You realize, I don't need to chase that anymore. I don't need to prove myself anymore. I don't need to stay where I'm constantly questioning my value. And perhaps most importantly, I can trust myself again. That is the real shift. Your inner compass isn't necessarily telling you exactly where your destination is. It's reminding you that you can navigate, you can adjust, you can choose again, you can begin again, you can walk away, you can start over. You can change your mind, and you can become someone your past self couldn't have imagined. That is freedom. 10. Your August 15th message, Aries. If you've been feeling like something is changing beneath the surface, don't immediately label it as a problem. It may be a transition. Your emotional priorities may be changing. Your standards may be changing. Your relationships may be changing. Your definition of success may be changing. And yes, even your idea of who you are may be changing. That's okay. You are not supposed to remain the same person forever. The version of you who survived yesterday doesn't have to make every decision for tomorrow. So when the moon changes signs and your emotional atmosphere shifts, allow yourself to notice. Notice what gives you peace. Notice what drains you. Notice what keeps returning to your mind. Notice what you are no longer willing to tolerate. Notice what... So tonight, Aries, before you sleep, put your phone down. Take one slow breath. then another. And say this to yourself: I trust the direction my soul is showing me. I release what no longer belongs in my future. I don't need to force what is meant for me. I allow clarity to arrive in its own time. And finally, I trust myself to recognize the next right step. Because your life doesn't have to reveal the entire road at once. Sometimes you only need enough light to take the next step. And if August 15th brings a strange feeling, a sudden realization, a shift in your emotions, or a quiet knowing that you cannot explain, don't ignore it. Listen, because your circumstances may not have changed yet, but your inner compass has, and when your direction changes within, your outer world eventually begins to follow. If this message found you at exactly the right moment, comment, I trust my inner compass. And if you're an Aries walking through a new chapter right now, subscribe and stay connected, because this may not be the end of something. It may be the first sign that you're finally heading in the direction your future self has been waiting for. Your next chapter doesn't need to be forced, it needs to be recognized. And Aries, your compass is pointing somewhere new.